This thing should be. There it is.
Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Only just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now.
Welcome to the HVAC Guide for Homeowners live show where we talk about all things HVAC that no one else is talking about. Answering your questions live. If you can't tell, I've got a little bit of a hoarseness to my voice. Hopefully we make it through. Sometimes we are joined by other pros in the chat who might know answers to questions that I don't. And finally, we have breakout segments where we go over funny clips, industry news, and goofy inventions. And not only that, tonight we have a special guest. When I started this YouTube channel and this live show, my biggest goal was to give folks access to see and be a part of things they can get nowhere else. And tonight is another great example of that. But before we bring on Dave, let's take a moment to pay the bills and thank the sponsor of the show. I wanted to take a quick break and tell you about something I'm doing outside of educating folks on our YouTube channel. If you're a service professional of any type, you don't have to be an HVAC, I want to invite you to check out our growth groups at newhvacguide.com. They are full of other pros like you that are wanting to grow. You can share strategies, overcome challenges, and unlock your full potential with the supportive community of your peers. Learn from industry experts and proven business tactics tailored specifically for service businesses.
The amount of information that I've gotten out of this has been unparalleled value. I've learned so much from the other guys in the group, what to do, sometimes what not to do. It's helped inspire me. I'm really looking forward to what the future holds with it as my company grows and I grow as a person on this call.
Check out the description or the chat for the link. See you soon. Tonight's guest might be our most controversial guest we've ever had, although he probably doesn't see it that way. His YouTube channel and content have proven to be a disruptor in the HVAC industry with his transparency and willingness to help others looking to do more DIY repairs to their HVAC system. He has experience in construction of all kinds and has over a decade of experience in the HVAC industry. His goal is to inform homeowners of information they can't get elsewhere, and he says humbly, he's still learning. Everyone, please welcome David Stojic. Let's go. Let's go. They were lined outside, and they are excited that you're here, pal. How's it going?
Going good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, I feel like this has been a long time coming. I think we've chatted several times on the phone, and your channel has really taken off in the last couple years for sure. I mean, I feel like when we first met, you had what, like less than 20,000 subscribers, and now you're well over 200. So congrats on that, if nothing else.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So What's let's just right out the gate. What's something you would just share if mom or Aunt Mary is buying a heating and air system and you're going to give them the long and skinny, right? You're going to give them the secret. What's something that you're telling mom?
Um, so the channel, it's been interesting because it's definitely catered more so to DIYers, and the HVAC industry is changing a lot in that a lot of places are selling equipment, and it's kind of fascinating. Like previously, if you were to buy a piece of or to buy a whole HVAC system, the contractor is in charge of all of it, so they can mark up the equipment, they can charge whatever for labor, and it's all like one package, no questions asked. But anymore, people can purchase the equipment, and a lot of contractors are open to the idea of installing it professionally, and they still get that 10-year warranty. But the homeowner themselves can save a lot of money. So I would say, as a just someone talking to my family members or a friend, that's definitely something to look into. You can still get good quality equipment and have it professionally installed and save a pretty good amount. Now, as you said, it's kind of like a lot of contractors don't like it. They want to keep all of the profits, and I do try to keep it pretty transparent. And I feel like at the end of the day, there's some people that do want to try and do some of this themselves, but at the end of the day, also others like have no interest in touching it. Like they're not the ones that are coming on and commenting and saying like that we're stealing business from them, because the reality is there's tons of people, a lot of work to go around, and just looking for ways to help homeowners, DIYers, and help them to do it safely and save money.
Nice. Do you think that like, do you feel like you're a disruptor in the industry? Like, do you like, because I was talking to, I think it was Taddy, who's in our chat right now. And I was telling him, I was like, I don't think Dave sees it this way, but he almost is, Dave is almost kind of like, he's almost kind of given the middle finger to the rest of the industry and has said, look, I'm going to, whether you like it or not, I'm going to be transparent and, and I'm going to be honest here. And, some folks don't like that. What are you, I mean, is that part of the mission here, or is it just part of the territory?
It's just part of the territory. Like I haven't done this on purpose to offend people. But there's always going to be the people that come on and comment on all of my videos. It's like they come out of the woodworks just to like leave a nasty comment about how like I'm stealing food from their family's mouth, and that's not how I view it. I think at the end of the day, like we're not even in the same, I mean, obviously like with YouTube, it doesn't matter what state you're in, but in the grand scheme of things, the small amount of people that are watching my videos are not like, they're not making up a large amount of people who could otherwise be like hiring professionals to do it. And I do feel like if someone owns a home, they should have the right to be able to do some of this stuff themselves and not have to pay, a ton of money to have it done. Now, granted, I do want everyone to be doing this stuff safely, and I try to be pretty adamant about like, if you don't feel comfortable, working with electricity or with any of this, don't do it. But if you are capable, you've done some repairs before, then I feel like they can tackle that.
Yeah, I feel like, and I think I've told you this before. I actually think there is certain things that even if a homeowner feels more handy, and we may disagree on this, right? And that's okay. But I actually feel like there are certain things that even a handy homeowner should probably not be doing, right? I mean, there's just certain things that unless you have done this for a while, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. But even with that said, there's a lot of guys that seem to have an issue with your content specifically, and maybe even my content at times, that they have no problems with heating and air guys making videos for other heating and air guys, But we both know homeowners are watching that stuff too. So you're just being honest about it. Hey, if you want to try to, if you want to replace this capacitor, for example, here's how you do it. Make sure you do this and make sure you're being safe about it. But those guys have the same videos. They're just not saying, hey, this is DIY. So what's the difference? That's been my big thing.
Yeah, the difference is just that it says DIY and I'm honest about who it's catered to. But yeah, like the anti-DIY guy, Ted is awesome. Like I've learned a ton of stuff from his channel, and just because I'm in the HVAC trade doesn't mean like I'm entitled to that information and someone else isn't. I do think it's funny that like his top viewed video of all of the videos he has posted, over like hundreds of videos, is about like how to clean your condenser, and the comments are turned off. But people are like, there's tons of homeowners who want to do this. It's not millions of contractors who are learning how to clean coils because they've known how to do that like from day one. But stuff like that is like very low risk as far as like rinsing your coils off. And that's something, that homeowners can save a lot of money by doing. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot of stuff that homeowners are learning. And that's the great thing about YouTube is homeowners alike, professionals, DIYers, they all can learn. And even like I was telling you before, I've learned a ton of stuff from people commenting who are also in the trades that say, maybe take a negative approach and say, you're retarded. You could do this way easier by doing this. And I take it as like, that's cool. Like if you want to take that approach, you can, but at the end of the day, I'm still learning something. So whether you want to realize it or not, I learned from this comment and I can use that to my advantage. So I think it's an awesome thing.
Yeah. I think the other thing with that is, well, I'm trying to think of how I've actually lost my train of thought because I was thinking of something else. But there was something I was going to say as far as, let me think for a second. This always happens on a live show.
I'm just reading the comments here.
Man, what was I going to say to that? I lost my train of thought as far as that goes. But yeah, it's good to see Taddy and Brian and Steve, all these guys. William says he has a Daikin fit. System will not shut off. Thermostat reaches 71 degrees, but unit continues to run. I think there is a couple of things there. I mean, first thing I would ask is the fan mode set on auto? Because if it's set on, it's going to continue to run. But if it is on auto and the system is just continuously running, there could be something wrong there. You might need to have it looked at. Some inverter systems, and the fit is somewhat like this. Some inverter systems are meant to learn what speed it needs to run to keep temperature, but not draw a bunch of energy. So it's going to run at a low speed. We're still removing humidity and still keeping your house comfortable, but it is going to run longer than a single speed system. What are your thoughts on that, Dave?
I'm not too familiar with the Daikin fits. I noticed Taddy mentioned that indoor fans might stay running for comfort. I know so I installed a Mr. Cool on our garage, and I noticed that the fan just kept running and running, even though the temperature was met. And come to find out, it's just a built-in feature that fan actually just runs and circulates air, and there's no way to turn it off. So I don't know how I feel about it, but that's how it's designed. So there's nothing wrong with it. But it could be that it just is supposed to be running continuously to circulate air, even though that the temperature is met its set point.
Yeah. Yep. So, what's a day look like for Dave Stojic? What is a normal day for you? I'm saying your last name right? Or am I not?
It's actually the J is like a Y sound, like a Y sound. So it's actually Stojic.
Stojic.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
But everyone says Stojic, and I'm totally used to it. So no worries. So recently it's been a lot different in that I just recently like became a full-time content creator. And I still do a little bit of HVAC, but for the most part, it's creating content. And I'm trying to broaden the channel in my scope. Like the main thrust will always be HVAC, but I want to kind of expand it a little bit, doing plumbing and electrical and general DIY stuff. So it is very strange having a different set of pressures. Like instead of having people calling me constantly and having to go and physically do this work, I'm now like trying to think about different ideas and stressing sometimes about like getting videos created and posted and the schedule with that. So I'd like to say it's been stress free, but it really hasn't. It does take a while to build a channel, and you have to have a lot of consistency when you're posting and working around the house. Like thankfully I have a dedicated space in my garage, but I'm working on getting like a demo furnace and a demo AC setup so I can have everything out there to where I can create, educational HVAC content. But yeah, it's been a lot different being a creator versus being out in the field full time. But I'll always have the joy of like going out on a call and diagnosing something or replacing a system. Like it's just in my blood that I genuinely enjoy doing that kind of stuff.
It's weird. I sold my company a couple months ago, and it's weird. I mean, it's because it's not so much that I do, I dislike my new way of doing things, or I dislike having more time on my hand, or whatever the situation is. But for me, and I think it sounded like this is the case for you too. Is it was almost like a light switch. Like for me, I was doing this one thing for 12 years, and then all of a sudden, bang! I mean, I'm not doing it anymore, and it's just still weird. I mean, it's 3 months later now, and it's still kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It is very strange. Like, especially so I did something similar. Like I sold my maintenance customers. So we still work with our sister company, like with calls that come into my business. I refer them to them, on a commission basis. But by and large, yeah, completely changing your profession is very strange for sure. And I kind of, if I can backtrack, so the reason we started the YouTube channel, I should say I started it. I always say we for some reason, but it's pretty much just me. I used to be a handyman there for probably 3 or 4 years. And it's anything in construction is like, it's hard on your body, it's hard on your back, moving stuff. And I did a lot of fence work. So like digging holes, filling them with concrete, putting posts in. And so my back was like really messed up for a couple months. And I was genuinely concerned that like I wasn't going to be able to work. And so I had been watching another guy on YouTube. He's called The Handyman. He was like the main handyman at the time on YouTube. And I was like, man, this dude makes like a full-time wage on YouTube. And I was like, I need to think about something kind of passive that I can kind of have as a fallback plan. And never did I go into it expecting that I could eventually just be a content creator. Like, for lack of a better word, people call it an influencer. I don't really care for that term. I think I'm just an educator, online educator, really. So yeah, it's kind of like morphed into what it is, because there's people out there that want the content. And so I think like for anyone that's wanting to do the same, like I know obviously a lot of the people here are starting YouTube channels. Some of you maybe that don't, if you're thinking about it. I think even though like going into it, I thought this is a flooded space. Like there's already videos about HVAC. But the reality is there's millions and millions of people viewing, and there's never going to be too many videos. Like the algorithm will continue to show new videos to people, and you just have to find out like what people are watching, what people want to see. And if you're creating good videos, like people are going to watch them, and you can be really successful at it.
I like it. This is turning into a motivation to start a YouTube channel all of a sudden, which I'm on board with. Yeah. No, I like it. I like it. This might be a question for you. Michael, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, says he's a homeowner that's looking to install a mini split. HVAC Direct was really pushing ACIQ, but he can't seem to find any reviews on it. Do you have any experience with these units? I defer to you because I have not.
No,
oh, did I cut out there? Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good. So what I would, as far as ACIQ, basically ACIQ is like a rebadged Carrier or ICP product. And in my opinion, Carrier has a really good piece of equipment. And I really think they have a good product. It's basically a rebadged Carrier. So, and the reason behind that is kind of interesting. I was actually talking to a rep for HVAC Direct, and the reason that it's labeled differently is because Carrier doesn't necessarily want their brand associated with something that they can just directly sell to a consumer or to a homeowner. So in putting ACIQ, it becomes a homeowner brand when it's actually a Carrier. So they have the same warranty. Granted, if you install it yourself, you're probably not going to get the 10-year warranty. But there are ways around that if we're helping you remotely to install that. If you run into a snag and you need help with it, or just general guidance as far as getting the right piece of equipment and installing it, we do have a membership where we help you with that, and we can also help you with the warranty as well.
So on your YouTube channel, you will help homeowners repair their own equipment. Is that what you're saying?
It's generally like some technicians will use that service. Sometimes a homeowner will use it. And I try to be transparent in that, you're doing this safely. You're not trying to do something that's beyond your comfort level. But we've helped a lot of people to fix simple issues on their system. But it's on our Patreon account. So patreon.com/DIY HVAC guys, where you can find it.
Okay. So it's with you. It's not, I was just trying to make sure you weren't saying that HVAC Direct had that or whatever. So it's something you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Man, I wish I had a really good thought a moment ago when we were talking about this whole thing, but, let me ask you, you said that you get some guys sending you messages and things like that. How do you normally handle that? Do you just ignore it, or do you delete them, or what? How do you handle that?
I always try to kill them with kindness. Like if you want to come on the channel and leave ugly comments, like me or anyone, we can't prevent you from doing that, but how we respond is another story. So like I said before, if you respond kindly and showing appreciation when someone, even in an unkind manner, is actually giving you valuable information, I do appreciate that, even though that may have not been what they intended. And I do get a little bit of pleasure from knowing that like all of the comments means more views and more attention on the video. So they're actually helping me out.
Right. I had a video one time. I don't remember what the topic was, but two guys got on there and started arguing back and forth. And I was like, okay, y'all keep it up, keep those comments going.
Yeah.
So
do you get some flack for that too, as well? Like just showing homeowners stuff that people feel like they shouldn't be knowing?
So I don't do a lot of DIY stuff, but I did do a thermostat video one time where I talked about how to get into the programming, and I had a guy email me directly, and I had just started out, so it was a little overwhelming, to be honest with you. Um, and so I don't know. Sometimes I handle them differently. Sometimes I don't ever fight with them, so I don't do the opposite of killing them with kindness, but I do sometimes block them because, if they're just
Yeah.
going to go on all my videos and blow me up with nasty stuff, I'm too thin skinned for that, to be honest.
Yeah, some people do that, like literally video after video. They just watch them and do a bad comment. And those kind of people, I'm just like, I don't think they know that you can actually delete their comment or just block them. So when it's a super long one, I'm like, oh, this is great. I can just delete it. And then they have to retype it if they want to repost it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. That's your battle back.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is something most folks don't know about you?
Um, hmm. Something most folks don't know about me.
You're usually pretty
I'm
transparent in
32.
your videos, but maybe do what?
I said I'm 32.
Yeah.
I'm
You
half
like you
Maltese and half Serbian. So that's where the last name comes from. My dad, he's from the former Yugoslavia. So my dad, it's funny kind of now that I bring that up. So my dad worked at the international airport for 30 years, and he had 4 kids, me and my other 3 siblings. And growing up, he always like told me and my brother to pursue some sort of trade because he always wanted to do that and work for himself, and he never did. He never took that leap because he had too many responsibilities. He couldn't do that having 4 kids. And so I thought that was like just really great advice that he motivated us to do that, because both me and my brother own our own businesses, and I don't ever see like working for a company again. Like it's just totally different when you are your own boss. You can take time off as needed. You can have flexibility with your schedule. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to ask time off. You can just say, I'm booked until this day, and there's no questions asked. Like they don't ask you, well, what are you doing until then? You're just off until then. You're booked until then. So I'm really grateful that he kind of told us that and kind of told us to pursue that. And the other thing is like with schooling, I did go to school for HVAC. You can go, different levels of schooling with HVAC like anything else, but a lot of the experience I have is like in the field training, and I don't feel like someone has to go to college to make a really good wage and to really enjoy what they do. So I
what kind of
definitely appreciated that about my dad.
what kind of business does your brother own?
So he owns a CDL training business. It's pretty fascinating. So he bought into this business, and the owner actually thought that the business was going to like tank because the laws were changing at the time, and they were getting more strict on like what all they required to get your CDL. And so he bought into it, and come to find out, the laws like didn't really impact what he was doing. So like if you go through a traditional school, you're going to go for like 2 months to school to get your CDL. And what makes his unique is that he does it in one day. So if you have experience like backing up a trailer and just generally the geometry of how that works, he can generally get your CDL in one day. So you
Wow.
start at like 6 a.m. They do several maneuvers, and then they actually use his truck and trailer to go to the DMV, do the testing, and it's like all in one day for like $1,200. And so he
Wow.
can train like multiple people in a day, and he really enjoys it.
Nice. So he's a
Pretty
disruptor
cool.
in his industry too.
Yeah, I guess we're
Doing things
both just
different.
disruptors.
That's right. There's a bunch of troublemakers, those Stojics.
Yeah.
Larry says your most viewed video on your channel is still powering a furnace from a portable generator. He put a
Yes.
question mark like he's asking, but I think the answer is yes.
It is. Yeah, I think it's at like 2.5 million, but that was last winter that we created that one. I think it was last winter. But yeah, each winter it just continues to get views. I think it's been interesting. Like the channel is a combination of like emergency power and HVAC because people are genuinely interested in that. And so I kind of been trying to kind of duplicate that, but also trying not to like beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think as we go down this road of we're going to see the industry, I think, more. I mean, we already see them pushing heat pumps. They're trying to, do this electrification of our industry. And so solar is probably going to become even more huge, you know, uh, 10 years from now, especially, I think, and so folks are going to look for creative ways to power their, heat and AC. Have you done any solar stuff on your channel?
I have not. We're actually getting
Taddy
solar.
has though, right? I think Taddy has.
Yeah. Yeah, he has. He's got some good content. As much as I would love to like do some DIY videos on solar, it's not my expertise. And so we're having solar installed this summer. They're working on the permitting right now, but I will be doing some videos on like how that whole like what the incentives are, if it was worth it, how having those on the roof, like any changes that I've noticed. So there will be some stuff on that in the future, but that got me thinking about your question earlier. I might be jumping ahead, but weird
No, right.
inventions.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
are you aware of a unit that's completely like it comes with solar and you just install it and it just runs on solar?
Well, so hold on. So anybody that doesn't know what Dave's talking about, every week we do a segment where we, well, not every week, but a lot of weeks we'll do a goofy inventions segment. So I saw Tony's on here. Tony's gonna be our guest next week. Have you seen any of Tony's stuff? And he's like the smartest guy in the room, and he's so humble about it. But like his stuff is like next level. I mean, it's just crazy. But anyway, I just feel like well anyway, so we do these segments where sometimes I'll do like I don't know, I've come up with some crazy goofy inventions just almost for a laugh. But so that's what Dave's talking about. And I was telling him before the show started, do you have anything? Do you have a goofy invention like the Snuggie where they just sewed sleeves to a blanket and became millionaires from it? So anyway, now that we have the introduction, let's hear your goofy invention.
Well, it's not really goofy. I don't really have a goofy one, but if I had a good invention, I probably wouldn't be sharing it because I'd be trying to get a patent on it and becoming a millionaire. But I was just curious about like if you were to like, is it feasible even to like buy an AC unit like a mini split? Everything is powered from the outside unit, so is it possible to get one that's just it comes with everything to be off grid to where you just hook it up and you have enough panels to like run it?
I'm sure it is. I somebody told me, it might have been Tad, was telling me that they've now got this mini split that's almost like a PTAC hybrid, but instead of being this loud PTAC, it's a some sort of through the wall where it's just a hole
Mm-hmm.
and it blows air outside, through the hole, but it's a or maybe it's blows air inside from the outside, but whatever it is, it's a mini split all in one. And so adding solar panels to it would be just next level to it. Yeah, you better hurry up and patent that, man, because I mean we're giving all the goodies away tonight.
That would be awesome.
I'm trying to think of what some of my other goofy inventions have been. I know I talked one time about you know, have you ever been in like it's hard, like, well, I don't know, pegboard might be a good example of it. So that like something like pegboard that has all the holes in it, but having flooring that, instead of registers in the floor, your entire room is like pegboard, but really tiny, like you didn't know you were on pegboard, but
That
the
would be
entire
cool.
floor was blowing AC and heat and in the space. So that's just one of the goofy inventions I've come up with on our show. And I haven't patented any of them. I've always said, if you go and get rich off of one of my ideas, just keep me in mind, send
That's
the
pretty
royalty
smart. I've
checks,
never
baby.
thought of that before.
Yeah. So that's just one example of some of the goofy inventions I've come up with. I'm trying to
I
think
love
of
it.
another one. Let me see if I can find my list here. I talked one week about when they dig foundations for houses, so they're already digging. Go ahead and drop your loops in for geothermal.
That would be smart.
I don't know what that would look like though, because if they go pouring concrete in there, the heat transfer is probably not as good. So you'd have to figure that part out. But if you're already digging down, throw your loops down, and as long as the house is, the footprint is big enough, the digging part is big enough, I would assume they could maybe figure it out, especially with today's technology. I don't know. I'm just looking at my list of some of the, like those mini splits that can see you in the room. So like, yeah, like some mini splits will split the air. So it has an eye that'll sense you in the room. And as you walk through the room, it'll split the air. So it's not directly blowing on you. I know
Oh,
Mitsubishi has it. Daikin's got one that does it. And, my idea was, instead of you having to tell the system that you're hot or cold, AI technology would sense you. It would have a thermal camera or whatever, thermal something that would sense, oh, Dave's getting a little warm. Let me go ahead and kick that AC up a little bit.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're onto something there.
Yeah. I mean, who knows?
I think AI is going to take over the world, and it's kind of scary, like what all AI can do.
Like take over the world, like Terminator style, or
I don't know. It's just going to take over.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's possible, I guess.
Going to steal all of our jobs.
What was the main was Skynet, I think is what it was called or whatever. I mean, I think it's possible, right? Skynet start building soldiers, and I don't know. Yeah. Elon Musk is scared of it, so if he's scared of it, there must be something to it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about what you do?
I would say the flexibility. Like I was saying before, just owning your business in general is, you have freedom to do the things that are most important to you. So spending time with your family, with your dog, as you can hear, like, I guess taking the aspect out of self-employment and thinking specifically about HVAC, even if you're working for someone, I think just being able to know like exactly what you're getting into, because as a handyman, there's so many different things and so many different tools and different skill sets you have to have. But I love the simplicity of HVAC. You have a set amount of tools. You can keep them in a small vehicle. You know exactly what you're getting into and exactly how to carry out like what you need to do. So that's the main thing I like about it. Not to mention seeing people happy. Like when you're able to fix their system or give them a new system, they're genuinely happy because they're going to save money in the long run and they're comfortable.
Yeah, I've told people before when I started my business, you know, I'd had a horrible boss before that. Luckily, I've got a pretty decent boss now, and they don't micromanage me. Because if they did, I probably wouldn't work there. You know, I would just go full time YouTube or something else. I'd go, you know, flip burgers. But anyway, when I started my first business, I remember thinking, you know, not so much that it's a guy girl thing, but it was the first time that I felt like a man, right? I mean, I felt like I make the decisions. You know, you don't tell me when I'm hungry anymore. I'll decide when I take my lunch and how long it'll be and all those things, right? And I actually do genuinely believe that anybody that has any sense of um, ambition, that they own a business at least some point in their life. You know, I think that would be a good thing, if nothing else, for the sense of it also made me more mature. Before that, I was just kind of a snot nosed, immature young man, and I would, you know, fly off the handle about certain things and whatever. But, you know, when you become a business owner and you start to wear different hats, it starts to change you in a good way. You know, it makes you more mature about things, and, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. I feel the same way. Um, and I feel like as I probably push that too much, like owning your own business, because it's great for me. But again, like there's a lot of people that they just want to do a task that they're told to do, and they can do it proficiently. They get it done, and they just leave work at work. Some people, that's how they are wired. And I think for me, and probably for you, we're not wired the same. We like to kind of dance to the beat of our own drum. But yeah, I try not to push that too much, because the other part of it is like my wife, she does all the accounts for our business, and if I didn't have her, we'd probably be bankrupt. So in the reality is that she does a lot of the work too. Um, so, but yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
I had a lady tell me one time that because I thought everyone was like that. Like everyone should own a business and everyone should feel that way. And she told me, she's like, Josh, I already know about myself. If I don't have a boss, I have very little motivation to do certain things. Like I wouldn't even get out of bed in the morning, maybe. And I was like, really? Well, I cannot relate to that at all, you know? And it's God made us all different, I guess. I mean, it's just crazy.
That is
Uh,
interesting. I never viewed it from that lens.
Daniel wants to know what your goals are 5 years from now. Do you have any?
Um, 5 years from now, if we're all still here 5 years from now, then I would like to, I'd like to have the channel to where it's completely sustained. Like right now, there's a lot of fluctuations. It's very similar to an HVAC business. So every spring and every fall, there's a huge dip, and every summer is huge. Every winter, this is only my second year, so I'm not. There's not enough data to like know what is my baseline. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But once I get to, based off of what our monthly expenses are, if the channel is doing if it's doing a certain amount that's sustainable, like I don't necessarily have to stress. And that's one thing I struggle with. Like there's always like greener grass on the other side of the fence. And you can always fantasize about like what could be, but the reality is if you're being reasonable about, where you want to be in 5 years, I think like setting the expectation at a certain point and not like looking for things that are grand. I'm not trying to become rich. I just want to like have this to where it's sustainable and that I can take off for, a month or 2 months at a time and not really have to worry about it. So not quite retired, but, I guess you could technically call it like semi-retired. I don't know.
So 5 years from now, you want to be living in a retirement community and be skinny dipping in the pool every night, scaring all the ladies. Got it.
Yes.
Same. That's my dream too. Yeah, there we go.
Can I ask you the same? Like, all jokes aside, can I interview you for a second?
Oh, sure. You're asking what my goal is 5 years from now?
Yeah.
So I've got a few things that I'm working on. But I think ultimately I would love I think right now there's a lot of noise in our industry, and there's no reason that's I mean that's not a bad thing, but there's a lot of YouTube channels, there's a lot of content creation in the HVAC industry. So I've always said I don't think I'll ever be the guy, but I'd like to be a guy, right? And so I don't think I'm quite there, but it would definitely be nice in the next 2 to 5 years to be known as a guy in our industry, right? So that's kind of part of it. And I think with that comes some responsibility and you know, spreading some information like you and I are already doing, right? We both do it in our own way, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's about giving out information that they can't get elsewhere, right? That's one thing we both have in common, I feel like. And so I would love to be that voice of reason. You know, I'd love to be when there's 10 different websites that say this is the best HVAC brand, and they all 10 of them say a different brand, you know, being someone that you know, someone folks might turn to for some advice, and that's kind of been the goal all along. Does that mean I want to get on here and bash brands or anything like that? Not necessarily, but if a brand needs some bashing, I'm here to do it. You know, I'm not here to make friends with them. I'm going to give folks the honest reality of what's going on. And, you know, that's kind of really what the goal's been all along. The goal as far as this year and 5 years from now has been, you know, to just be that a voice of reason, if nothing else. So,
no, I definitely feel like you're definitely a well-known HVAC. Like, and the reality of it is like there is a lot of HVAC channels on YouTube, and I can honestly say that your channel like is one of the well-known and trusted HVAC channels. Like,
thanks, pal.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my heart for you to know.
And I'm not just saying that.
Nah, I appreciate that. No, I mean that's
you definitely have like a lot of experience, and a lot of people know that like when you say something, you're not just like kind of winging it. Like I said before, there's still a lot of things that I'm learning myself. I don't claim to be like a total HVAC expert. It is my trade, and I do love learning more about it, and I have a pretty good grasp on HVAC things in general. But like the really technical, especially the new stuff, the new high end, very sophisticated stuff, that's kind of where I struggle. And you clearly have a good grasp on like all that stuff, so that means a lot.
Thanks, pal. I mean, shoot, that's a whole nother animal right there, right? Because every brand is doing their own thing, you know. So I think it'll be fun to see over the next, especially with these new refrigerants coming out, where we are 5 years from now in general, right? I mean,
yeah.
When we talk about AI, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask you what you think as far as like the new refrigerants, maybe just moving into like 2025, 2026, like the next couple of years, what that looks like for homeowners as far as like what they're going to spend compared to like maybe what they spent last year?
Ooh, I mean, spending is, I mean, that's a whole nother animal. I'll tell you, so one of the classes that I'm teaching right now at where I'm working is on these new A2L refrigerants. And what's interesting is there are two options moving forward. So some of the brands are going to go with one option and some of the brands are going with another. And one of those options it has a lower GWP, and I'm actually working on a video on this, but it has a lower global warming potential. But there's some other concerns with that refrigerant. It's got PFAs in it, known as forever chemicals. And there are countries outside the US that are banning these toxic chemicals that are being released into the atmosphere, and they're known as forever chemicals because in some cases we don't know what the shelf life is of these chemicals, right? I mean, they're almost like plastic in a landfill. We don't know the shelf life, and they're toxic. They create infertility in women. They affect the development of toddlers and of course cancer and all these other things. And it's concerning to me that the options that we're moving towards might be better for the environment, but some of the brands are considering options that are just simply health hazards. And it's concerning. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 2 years with that. But I thought you were going to ask me where I thought the industry was going as in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think we're eventually going to get to A3 refrigerants in our country. Unless somebody invents something, somebody's going to come out with something crazy. Because if we all had R290, which is propane, the GWP is lower than 4. It's like 4 or something like that, right? And so it's so low that if you had a compressor failure, you could just cut it loose and just let it loose into the atmosphere. You don't have to reclaim it. And so you let the refrigerant out, you replace your compressor, and then you fire the system back up. Now, obviously, A3 refrigerants come with their own set of issues, namely and mainly flammable. They're super, super flammable. And so a lot of folks are not okay with that being in their house. But the cool thing about it is it doesn't have to be in your house. With a lot of these air to water technologies that we're seeing other countries use, the system would sit outside. If there were a leak, it would leak into the atmosphere, and we would pump water into your house, not refrigerant. And I don't know. That's where I'd like to see us go, but we'll see. We got a long ways to go.
Yeah. I was just telling my my buddy today that I wish everything was back like in the when I first got started, like with R22, like low pressure, like everything was simple. There wasn't all of this stuff going on, and I just wish it was back like that. But unfortunately, those days are long gone.
Yeah, R22. I had a love affair with it, man. I mean, it was such good stuff. And I'm excited to see R32 being a single compound refrigerant again. But aside from that, I mean, R22, man, if we would have had the technology of today with the refrigerants of back then and being able to get as much out of that refrigerant as possible, maybe, just maybe, even though it was horrible for the ozone, maybe we could have gotten by with it a little longer because the systems themselves wouldn't have held as much refrigerant. I don't know. With these inverter systems, you just kind of put a couple pounds in there, put, 4 or 5 pounds in there instead of 10 or 15. And, the system would have a higher SEER rating just because it's an inverter. And, I don't know. Now I'm just spitballing.
You're getting over my head.
What's a good horror story? What's the worst horror story that's ever happened to Dave out there?
Okay. So it's not HVAC related, it's actually plumbing related. But
okay.
I got started as a handyman and I had this customer that had like commercial, he had a commercial, like a restaurant, like a bar. And he wanted me to take one of those commercial sinks, like the big stainless steel ones where they clean all the glasses and everything. He wanted me to basically swap a sink out. So I was like in the process of doing this, there was shut off valves. So I was able to like turn the valves off, take the old one away. I got the new one in and I was like down to one last fitting. And I was just, I remember now, I went to Home Depot to get these special fittings and I left the bag at Home Depot, and I was like, I don't want to drive all the way back to Home Depot to get this one thing to get this job done. And so I knew that like on another part of the building, he had like an abandoned part of the building that had just like junk piled up everywhere. It was like 10 feet high with just random stuff. And I happened to see a stainless steel um, countertop, like a sink, exactly like the one that I just replaced. And so I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I can just nab this piece. And little did I know that whole part of the thing was like a commercial kitchen, and those things were still live. So I'm like, I'm hacking at this pipe to get this piece off that I needed, and water just starts shooting out like 90
Oh
psi
my gosh.
water. And I tried to run outside and find the water shut off, and I was like, I'm done. I'm gonna lose the business, like lose everything. And so I like was calling people frantically, finally got the lady to come, and the water shut off was like in a closet, like a locked closet. But in the meantime, I was like just sitting there with my thumb over this pipe, like it left a nasty bruise. But come to find out, it was a commercial kitchen, so there was a drain, but I was actually like freaking out because I thought I had like totally flooded this place, because it was probably like hundreds of gallons of water. Like I don't even know how much it was. So
Wow.
that's my horror story.
That's a pretty good one. That's a good one.
I definitely learned from that one.
The one I always tell is I was working for a company that did electric as well as HVAC. And so I was installing lights in a strip club, believe it or not. And so the strip club was closed, so I wasn't seeing anything I shouldn't. But talk about something surreal, being in this strip club alone, like not another soul, and silent, complete silence. But anyway, there was this door. We were looking for this circuit, so we had put a circuit tracer on there. We were trying to find the electric panel, and amidst looking for it, we found this secret door, and we went through the door, and there was this whole nother side of the building that we didn't even know existed, or at least didn't know that they were connected. And it was basically these apartments with a bunch of like 10 bedrooms with just a bed in each room. So I'll leave your imagination to what we thought that all was. But I just remember, I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever experienced. I'm this is nuts. So
That's gross. I don't even want to know.
exactly. Emery says, what's the worst install you've ever seen?
The worst install I've ever seen.
I've seen some pretty odd ones online.
Yeah, for sure.
We see
I should have taken a picture of the one we saw today. It's a brand new install, but they like put all of the, I guess because it was in a basement, and here it's very low humidity. So that's technically considered a conditioned space. So it was just like tons and tons of silver flecks with no insulation. And it was like covering the whole front of the unit. So I could hardly access the panel. And then it was like a half basement. So like there was like these weird half jut outs on the outside perimeter. And that's where the unit was. And the line set, like they could have easily brazed it right on the side at eye level, but they went up and over on the other side. And it was like, did they just do this on purpose to make us mad? Like when we had to work on it. I'm trying to think of the worst though. I'll let you answer that one.
I mean, I don't know if I could think of the worst one, but I know I remember multiple times at my company us just simply walking away, like us just saying to them, look, I mean, for me to even touch this, it all needs to be ripped out and redone. This is just such a mess. And I don't even know where the laundry list I would make for you to fix everything would be more money for us to repair everything than just start over. And I remember several jobs where we did that. but I've seen some crazy ones. I had a boiler one time that I went to the guy and I was like, here's like 15 things I see wrong. And he goes, yeah, but what's wrong with it? Like, why is it not running? And I said, well, I do know that circulating pump down there has failed. He said, well, how much to replace the pump? And I was like, I'm not giving you a price just to do the pump. You're going to do these 15 things or you're going to call somebody else, because as soon as I touch it and then the son of a gun blow up next year or burn the house down, you're going to say I did it, you know? So you're going to do it right, or you're not, or going to call somebody else, you know, is how I felt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some really ghetto stuff, especially in Tennessee, in attics. Like, that's even worse because you have leaks from the ceiling and like tight, nasty spaces. But I couldn't pinpoint it to one particular install, but I've seen some pretty bad ones.
Yeah.
Another story, I guess it's kind of a horror story. So when I lived in Tennessee, I went to this job and it was a package unit on the side of the house. So it has that metal cover over the ductwork going into the house. And the homeowner complained that the AC wasn't working. It was like the dead of summer, super hot. And he had this weird smell in his vents. And so when we got there, I opened up the unit and I opened up the side panel for the blower fan. And I saw like a tail like flap out of the panel. And I was like kind of scared to open it, but I took the whole panel off and like stepped back. And there was a possum in there, like with his mouth open, just staring at me.
Oh my gosh.
And it in the unit, so it had like dug through or bit through the ductwork, got into the ductwork and was in the unit. So I put the panel back on and I got the homeowner and I was like, hey, there's a possum in here and I can't work on it until this is fixed, like until animal controls. I forget what I said exactly, but automatically he was like ex-military and he's like, I'll fix it. So he was carrying a handgun. He walks out there and
oh my gosh,
right in the unit. So there's like,
oh my gosh,
splattered all inside of the unit. And I'm like, dude, now I definitely can't work on it. There's guts everywhere and I'm not going to clean guts to work on this. So come to find out, there was a possum and there was also a skunk on the other side. And I was like, when I saw the skunk, I was like, I'm out. Like, I'm not touching this. And I never went back. Like I don't know what happened, if he just taped it himself or what. I was like, this is ridiculous.
I actually was looking through my list of questions that I'll ask folks sometimes, and one of them is, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Meanwhile, you're telling me of some guy shooting a possum in the ductwork. I'm like, never mind. I don't need to ask that. We are going to be wrapping up shortly, folks. If you're watching this, I've got a couple more questions for Dave, but as we do land this plane, if you know of we already know there's some bad ones out there, right? So if you know of a good HVAC company, a good plumber, or a good electrician across this country, drop their name in the chat, where they're located. Again, we want to show some love to the good ones out there, and you never know, someone in your area may actually see that comment and you might show that company some love in more ways than one. Ryan wants to know, what's the simplest equipment that homeowners can buy that you recommend, Dave, for unitary and mini splits?
So I know you came in a little bit late, Ryan. We talked about it a little bit earlier. ACIQ is one of the brands on HVAC Direct. They're a really good brand, basically a rebadged carrier piece of equipment. And it's kind of dependent on the SEER rating of what you get and how sophisticated it is. If you're going with like a standard SEER straight air conditioner, it's going to be very basic, very easy as far as the installation. So Goodman is also a great brand. I think it's more of a builder grade piece of equipment, but again, I've seen really good things with Goodman. I feel like the biggest difference is just the the gauge steel that they use for their equipment. It's a little more flimsy, but I've seen Goodman's last for a long time, and I think they're good equipment. As far as mini splits, I would probably say, I think you can get Daikin on HVAC Direct. Pretty sure.
Are you
But
just
I know
saying
you
that
can.
because I drink the Daikin Kool-Aid? Because you don't have to say Daikin. You can, if you've got a brand and like, feel free.
No, I've installed a few Daikins, and I do think they have a really good piece of equipment. ACIQ too. They make good stuff. Again, they have the same warranty depending on who you have install it.
Okay, very cool. What is what is something that consumers should do more research on before they purchase HVAC? Like, is there anything specific in your opinion that they should educate themselves on more than they usually do before they pull that trigger on buying something?
Like buying it as a consumer or saying okay with a contractor.
Well, either one. I think specifically, like, I'll just use this as an example. I think that homeowners could and should do more research on the upsides of purchasing an inverter system versus a single stage or two stage, right? So that's one example. But what's something that you feel like you say more than once, either on your channel or to your own customers? That we all have our spiels, right? We all have our broken record, different face, same information, right? So what's something that you feel like they should know more about when they're purchasing HVAC?
Something that I try to stress is not so much the brand, because a lot of these brands are rebadged equipment and a lot of them are very good. Like some people say they don't like this because of this or one thing that happened with this brand. But I think the reality is people need to do more research on the contractor that they're hiring. Because if they just looked them up and just found that they have 5-star reviews, that doesn't mean that they're a good company to work with. Like you need to actually talk to someone that has used them for years and trust them, because you can get fake reviews. You can find a way to get around that. I think the HVAC equipment is going to be as good as the contractor that you have to install it. So we were just talking about this earlier today. Like the reason that we have to charge what we charge, it might seem expensive to some folks, but the reality is that we're rolling in years of service to that customer in that initial price of installing your equipment. So 5 years from now, when you call me, or 9 years from now, when you call me to replace a piece under warranty, I'm going to be in business to like do that for you. I'm not going to be out of business and doing something else. And that happens a lot. Like people within 5 years, statistically, so many, I don't know what the percentage is, but a lot of companies drop off after 5 years because they're not charging enough, or they're just not doing something right about their business. But that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is a lot of equipment is, I've found here in Utah, is quite a bit oversized. So we've noticed that installing a smaller piece of equipment will actually do a better job in that it's not short cycling, it's conditioning that space, and it's actually saving the customer money. So I think doing more research on, even if you're potentially having someone install equipment that you purchased, making sure that it's the right size, like hire a professional to get a proper evaluation, do a manual J load calculation to see if that's the right piece of equipment you should get.
I like it. I like all of that advice. I second it all. Last question of the night I'm going to ask you, and I'll let you go. I appreciate your time. What is something that you're new that you're working on? And it's okay if it's maybe you can't share the details, but are you working on anything that you can maybe tease us about? Anything coming down the pike, maybe any videos, specific videos, or projects that you're working on?
Yeah, so we're currently having our website developed. So it's going to be kind of a one-stop shop for all of the things that you can find on our channel. So whether you're a homeowner looking for the right equipment that you want to purchase yourself and have someone else install, you can find information about that there. You can find all of the tools that we recommend if you want to try and tackle some of this stuff yourself. We also have our Patreon membership. So it's basically all in one location, one little package that people can visit our site and find all these different resources. So we're excited about that. And then we're officially doing like a very basic HVAC crash course. So whether you're a homeowner, you are someone who wants to get into the trades and just wants to know have some more general knowledge about an HVAC system, maybe so that you can get an entry level position at an HVAC company. We just started through our memberships on our YouTube channel. So if you go to our homepage and you click the join button, there's a tier there that's $25 a month, and it has several different videos, and we'll be adding to that super frequently. And we start from the basic orientation of your equipment, whether it's a package unit, a split system, a mini split, and then we walk you through how it physically works, how the compressor, evaporator coil, condenser, all of those function together. And then we slowly walk you into a little bit more technical things. So I'm excited to kind of have that specifically catered to teaching people, because on the channel it's more like DIY, but this is a lot more specific and it's a lot more detailed, because like on our videos on the channel, we've found that like people want you to get straight to the point. They want you to eliminate all of this fluff. And with our training videos, there's still not a lot of fluff. We try to edit it out, but it is more detailed, and I think it'll help a lot of folks to just expand their knowledge when it comes to HVAC.
I like it. I like it. If you're not a subscriber to Dave's channel, make sure you subscribe to that. Dave, thank you so much for joining us. For anyone that's left here, I just want to end tonight by letting you know that next week, I will say, and I hope Dave don't take offense to this, but I think next week's guest might be the smartest guest that I've had. He's way smarter than me anyway. So we've got a guest next week. Really smart guy. He has a YouTube channel where he shares things way above my head, and I'm excited to have him as a guest on our show. Maybe we can put him on the spot and ask him some tough questions. So Dave, again, thank you for your time. For the rest of you, we'll see you next week. Make it a great week, and we'll see you then. Take care.